Welcome to Wawa Sandwire. Today we're talking about Teik Cheng's fierce critique, the glaring hypocrisy of government efficiency.
It's a huge issue, really. It gets right to the core of, the trust between the government and businesses, especially the smaller ones.
The SMEs, yeah.
Exactly. And Teik Cheng's argument is that there's this radical imbalance in how accountability works. The government seems to have one set of rules for itself, which is incredibly flexible, and then a completely different, really harsh set of rules for everybody else.
And we're not just talking about a simple policy disagreement. He's basically saying this goes beyond incompetence, that when you look at certain government actions, especially with tax refunds and some new labor laws, it stops looking like a service.
It starts looking more like predation. That's the feeling. So today, what we really need to do is unpack what led to such strong language and figure out what it all means for the survival of Malaysian businesses.
Right. Let's start with the first part of it, the money. The whole cash flow crisis that businesses are facing because of, negligence.
It's a fundamental failure. The first major complaint is about the Inland Revenue Board and the chronic delays in handling legitimate tax refunds.
And a refund isn't a gift, is it? It's the business's own money that they overpaid.
Precisely. It's not a grant. It's not a loan. It's their capital that the government is just holding on to. And that has a real cost.
There's that one specific example that really brings it home. The businessman running 4 music academies.
Yeah. That one's powerful. These are exactly the kind of small, local enterprises the government says it wants to support.
And he's trying to get back, RM112,000?
RM112,000. But the shocking part isn't just the amount. It's the time frame.
How long has it been?
5 years.
5 years. For an SME, RM112,000 that's not pocket change. That's expansion capital. That's payroll.
It could be the difference between surviving a tough year and going under. Think about it. For 5 years, that capital is just gone, dried up. The business owner might have to take out loans, paying interest, just to wait for their own money back from the government.
And he's apparently tried to follow up, right? He's approached the Inland Revenue Board multiple times.
Of course. And the lack of action, the silence, is what fuels this political outrage. It sends a message of disrespect. It basically cripples their working capital.
This is where Teik Cheng's language gets really sharp. He says businesses aren't begging. A tax refund is a legal right.
A legal entitlement. And to not return it for 5 years, he says it's not just inefficiency, it's a lack of basic integrity. He even compares the government's attitude to a deadbeat.
Someone who just won't pay their debts.
Exactly, and it completely contradicts the official line about supporting small businesses. It's the opposite of support.
Okay, so that's one side of the argument. The government is incredibly slow and fails to fulfill its own basic duties. So that leads to the other side of the critique. If they're that bad at their own job, how can they turn around and punish everyone else so aggressively?
That's the pivot. We go from government laziness to disproportionate punishment. The critique shifts to the government's approach on business compliance, and it's a stark contrast.
And this centers on a specific new law, right?
Yes, the recent amendment to the Employment Insurance System Act. The focus is laser sharp on one particular section, Section 45F. The argument is that this new rule turns what should be normal, everyday paperwork into what he calls high-risk criminalized tasks for employers.
So what does it actually require? What do businesses have to do now?
Well, there are 2 steps. First, an employer has to declare every single job vacancy to the government before they even start the recruitment process.
Before you even post an ad online.
Before anything. That's the first bit of new red tape. But the second part is where the pressure really mounts.
Okay.
Once you hire someone for that position, you must report that the job has been filled. And you have to do it within an incredibly tight deadline.
How tight?
7 days.
Just 1 week. Think about that music academy owner again. He's probably the one doing the hiring, the teaching, the accounting, everything. He doesn't have an HR department.
That's the reality for most SMEs. The owner is wearing 10 different hats. A 7-day window that can be missed so easily. A key staff member gets sick, a supplier has a problem, and suddenly you've missed a form submission. It's an administrative slip.
It's just late paperwork. So what's the consequence for missing that 7-day deadline?
This is the core of the issue. The fine can be up to RM10,000?
10,000 ringgit.
Up to 10,000, yes. For being a few days late on a form, for many small businesses, a RM10,000 fine isn't just a penalty. It could be their entire profit for the month or more.
So let's just lay this out clearly. The government takes 5 years. That's over 260 weeks. to return RM112,000 of a business's own money and faces zero consequences.
Right.
But that same business owner misses a 7-day deadline on a form and gets hit with a potential RM10,000 fine.
The word Teik Cheng uses is oppression. He argues it's not fair governance. It's creating an environment where the bureaucracy is totally shielded from its own failures, while the private sector is constantly at risk of being crushed by these massive penalties.
It feels like every administrative task suddenly becomes a tightrope walk without a safety net. For anyone out there running an SME, you must feel that pressure.
Absolutely. And that brings the whole critique together. The argument is that these policies, both the tax delays and these huge fines, they're immature. They show a real lack of consultation with the people actually running businesses.
It's being implemented by a bureaucracy that seems more interested in collecting fines than helping businesses succeed.
It's a fine-first mentality. And this is where the really strong analogies come in. Teik Cheng accuses the government of treating businesses like ATMs.
Just easy sources of cash.
Easy cash to plug their own gaps. He calls the practice officialized blood-sucking.
That's an incredibly strong phrase.
It is, but it captures that feeling of being preyed on by the very system that's meant to support you. It suggests both the Human Resources Ministry with its fines and the Inland Revenue Board with its delays are just focused on revenue, and they completely ignore the reality of running a small company.
It's a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah.
They're treating that music academy owner the same way they'd treat a giant multinational corporation.
Exactly. And this really gets to a crisis of moral authority. The question being asked is, how can a government that fails at its own basic duties, like giving people their money back on time, have any standing to levy these huge fines for minor mistakes?
It undermines the whole system. If the law only applies to the citizens but not to the government itself, then people start to lose trust.
That's it. The trust just erodes. When the government defaults on its own obligations but demands absolute perfection from you, the relationship breaks down. You stop trying to comply constructively and you start just trying to survive.
So the demand is pretty simple then, if the government wants to crack down on something.
It should start with its own incompetence. Clean your own house first before you come criticizing everyone else's.
It's a call for some serious self-reflection, isn't it?
It has to be. Until the government bodies fix their own internal problems, the outdated systems, the bureaucracy, whatever is causing these delays, then any new policy to help businesses is just going to sound hollow.
So when you put it all together, the 5-year wait for your own money versus the 7-day deadline for a massive fine, if this is the reality, if accountability only flows one way, what real hope is there for SMEs in Malaysia to actually grow?
It suggests the ceiling for growth is just artificially low. Businesses can handle market ups and downs. What they can't handle is a regulatory environment that feels stacked against them, where their own cash is held hostage.
A sobering thought on the real costs of all this inefficiency.
It really is.
Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.